Friday morning, and the vibe and the energy is great. So, which makes my job here today much easier. Because I'm going to share with you why managers matter, why you all in this room today have such an important role to play, and the impact you have on people's lives, not just on their roles, but on their lives. So I'm going to share with you, 9 years ago I had a conversation with my line manager. And I was a manager in a business, I had a team, a great team, and I loved the job that I was doing. I was getting great feedback, everything felt good. And then one day, I got a new line manager. She was one of those people who was known for schmoozing with the top, but if you worked for her, woe betide you. And I thought, that's fine, I'll be fine, I'm doing a good job, people telling me so. How wrong I was. She rang me one day to check in, and I was like, yay, telling her all the great stuff that was going on, and she interrupted me quite quickly. And she started to have a go, started to raise her voice, and started to throw out loads of horrible words, vile words. I was like, whoa, where's this come from? I had no idea. She carried on and on and on, raising her voice more and more and more. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? I was like, can you give me some feedback? Let's get specific. What's happening? She couldn't. Of course, she couldn't give me any feedback. But she carried on and on and on, and her words just kept flinging at me. And it was like I was being shot at dawn, to be honest. It was exactly like that, but with words, not bullets. And it was a conversation I'll never ever forget. As long as I live, I won't forget that conversation. She carried on, and slowly but surely, I just started to shut down. I was like, shut down. I actually started to think, hang on a minute, what is going on here? Because I've been doing a good job, I've got a great team, things have been going well. All the long hours, the commute, the really hard work, what have I been doing? As she just carried on throwing out these vile words. Eventually I started to cry. She absolutely wore me down. I just started to cry, and I couldn't stop. I was crying and crying, I was like, what? I just don't understand this. But in that moment, and on that very day, I had a fantastic light bulb moment. Something really resonated with me, and I realised just how much words matter. Conversations matter, and most importantly, managers matter. And once I took myself away from that conversation and I really reflected on it, 4 words came to my mind, and I found them really powerful, really comforting at the time. And I'd like to share them with you today, because you also might get some comfort from them. They were the 4 words that came up in my mind after she stopped twittering in my ear. That was my stinky fish moment, by the way. Those were words. It was like, what is going on? This is absolutely unacceptable. But the great news is, I learned so much on that day, because I left that business not long after. I thought, I don't need this shit, to be honest. I don't need it. And I've gone on to write a book inspired by such conversations. So if you're going to have some tough conversations with people, they might go and write a book later on. Gone on to write a book and to co-found an organisation that is all about helping leaders and managers have better conversations, to help people believe in themselves, to lift people up, to have better conversations in the workplace. And I'm really proud of that. So I thank that manager every single day, because that conversation has stuck with me and will last with me forever. Because of the impact she had, I knew something had to change for me personally and for the world of work. And that's what today's about. It's actually about how we can have conversations that people remember for all the right reasons, not the ones that I had. And don't get me wrong, she's also gone on to have lots of conversations similar with other people. So before we really make a start, I'd love you to shout out to me. And I've had a brief from Barry. I've got things to throw if I want, which I've never really been given that brief before. I've got some socks to throw, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to be throwing socks. I'm going to ask you to shout out, when you think of the best ever line managers you've ever had, what are the words that come to mind? What are those words?
Inspiring.
Inspiring. Supportive. Love it.
Kind.
Kind. Absolutely kind.
Communicative.
Communicative. Brilliant word.
Listener.
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 Honest.
Honest. Love that. What else?
Collaborative.
What was that one?
Empathetic.
Empathetic. These words are brilliant, and I absolutely agree with you. Listening, inspiring, communicative, empathetic, honest. They're really positive words. Now I have to say, I would not describe my line manager conversation as any of those. But those words you've described are why we're here today. Because that is absolutely what people are expecting these days. We all know what happened 4 years ago. There was a pandemic and it changed the way we work forever. The world of work was already changing before the pandemic. But particularly since the pandemic, people really started to reevaluate what they wanted out of their work, out of life. Did work meet their values? There was also something called the Great Resignation, where people left in droves if their organisation hadn't treated them well throughout the pandemic. And for those that were remaining, some people started quietly quitting if the organisation and their leaders and managers hadn't treated them well. Quiet quitting meaning just doing the bare minimum. And now there's been a huge shift, and it's called the Great Power Shift from employer to employee, and that absolutely continues. And you know what? Absolutely, that's the right thing. At last, organisations, and this makes me so proud to be here today because I've seen your culture report, and that's why I've been asked to come today from Barry, because my heart is absolutely in helping organisations build better cultures for their teams, for their employees, for everybody who works there. Because people these days want so much more. They don't want to have conversations like the one I described before, although it did inspire a name of a book. And people want to feel heard. They want to feel valued. They want to feel like they know what's going on. They want to feel like a sense of belonging. All of that is what people are looking for these days. Work is a huge part of life. And whoever came up with the term work-life balance, it annoys me because it's all part of the same thing. Work is a huge part of our life, and it's all part of an important part. And we've only got so long to live, so work is a key part of that. And the role that you all in this room play today is so important. And I feel really passionate about the difference that you can make not only to the organisational results, but to your teams and to the individuals, to their lives, to their careers, to their futures. And I think that's what it's all about today, and that's why I'm here to share stories with you, some facts and figures, but also really how to go about doing that, because sometimes it's easier said than done. So, the world of work transformed the way we work forever. And recently there was a survey done by the Workforce Institute. It was a global survey, and they interviewed over 3,000 employees around the world. And it became really clear that the workplace impacts our mental health so much. And the magic is in the conversations. The magic is in the relationships we're building at work, the people we're connecting with, the cohorts we're part of, your new best friends. And in that survey, over 60% of people said that their job was had the greatest impact on their mental health. And that was from a negative perspective. Again, 69% actually said that managers had the same impact to their mental health as their partners or their spouses. So people who they're hanging out with all the time, managers have that same impact. And 40% are often or always stressed at work. Giving workload And also, senior teams were also being quoted as one of the reasons. So, being the senior leaders of the organisation in here today, when I talk about managers or leaders, it's all of you who've got people who you are responsible for. It's your responsibility to support, to develop, to grow, to help them thrive and flourish in their work. Because while they thrive and flourish as individuals and teams, so will Antica. So again, another shout out. When you see this, what do you think of when you look at this? What about the lady with the glasses? How would you describe her? What words come to mind?
Defensive.
Defensive. Absolutely. Any others? Not really engaged with the person she's talking to. Yeah. Any more?
Angry.
Angry. Dominant. Defensive. She's definitely looking like the boss. What about the lady who's wearing yellow and mustard top? How would you describe her? Bored. What else? What other than bored?
Closed down.
Closed down. Indifferent. Different world. To me, she looks like she's either thinking about what she's doing that evening, what she's making for the dinner, what's on the Christmas shopping list, or she's got a whole lot going on outside of work. And this lady here with the glasses is going, sod that, not interested, we've got shit to get done. We have got stuff to do. And I get that. We've all got stuff to do. But actually, if we only ever focus on the transactional conversations where we talk about the task in hand, we'll only get so far. And you'll get things like that, because she certainly doesn't feel like the words that you all described about your best ever managers earlier. She doesn't look like she's listening, inspirational. She definitely doesn't look like she's communicating in an honest way. What about this one? How do you describe the guy here? Looking at you all. Open, listening. Engaged. And for all we know, the guy there, the other guy, he's probably got a lot going on as well, but he's being heard, he's being listened to, he's being valued. All the things that organisations, people are wanting these days. Gone are the days that people are wanting just to come to work, be told what to do and then go home. People want to have something bigger than themselves. And that is what makes organisations such as Antivo magical, because that's why you're all here today. These conversations are absolutely about that sense of belonging. Empathy. Somebody mentioned empathy earlier. And it reminds me of the story of somebody I used to have in my team many years ago. She was great. She was absolutely great. She was great at getting the job done. And I made the mistake of being the transactional line manager until I learned not to be. So whenever we used to have a conversation, she was great at work, she had loads going on, she was always getting great feedback. Outside of work, her life seemed to be in constant chaos and turmoil, always. It was just, and work was her sort of stable force. And I learned quite quickly that if I had a transactional task, let's get on it, I'm not even going to ask you how we are, we've got stuff to do, conversation, literally her shoulders would be around her ears and she wouldn't be listening. I could tell she'd be like frustrated. Until I learned that I needed to change my way of how to be with her, could I get the best out of her. So I used to have to start every one-to-one conversation with, how are you? Basic. And how's it going outside of work? And she would offload and download thoughts and feelings, stuff that's going on. And the minute she did that, she could then move forward and talk about the tasks. And I learned a valuable lesson there, because to get the most out of her, she needed all those things that you described earlier. She needed somebody to listen to her. She needed to feel heard. She needed to talk, and only then could she truly focus on how work was. Now, you may be thinking, ooh, this all sounds well and good, Jo, but we just don't have the time. We don't have the time. But for me, one of the most important things is about making time to get to know our people all around us, because that's when the magic happens. When you truly get to know your people, the results come through because you build trust, you build relationships, and people work better in trusting environments, in honest environments. And it's interesting because conversations are like a domino, it's like pushing over a domino. They're not just a one-to-one interaction. They impact many people. And that could be other team members, it could be other leaders and managers in the organisation, it could be partners at home, siblings, children, because we don't talk about stuff that's gone on. And it impacts so many. Another way of saying it is, it's like dropping a pebble into a pond and it can ripple out. But those ripples can be positive or negative. And my plea to yourselves is actually, how can you make more of those interactions, the positive ones, the more transformational, where you truly get to know your people and truly care about them, because that is what people expect these days, more than ever. So it's the transformational conversations, and we still need to get the task ones, but we have to start to get to know our people more and more. And you may be thinking, well, that's all well and good, but how do I do that? Now I'm going to share a quote, and it's a quote that I absolutely love, because it really resonates with me. And it's by an author of a book called Be More Human. And I read the book because of the title, Be More Human. It's that. That's what people are expecting. And here's the quote. Put people first and the results will follow. When we put people first, the results will follow. Whereas sometimes some leaders and managers can put the results first and hope and pray that the people will follow that direction. This is about winning hearts and minds. Winning hearts and minds. So when people want to be part of your team, want to be part of the direction you're going, you need to be able to follow you. But they do that through trusting you, through you getting to know them, through getting to know the people. It's all about winning hearts and minds. Now again, you may think, well, how do I do that? How do I win hearts and minds? Well, the way our world and our brain works is something called think, feel, do. Our thoughts drive our feelings and our actions every day. And that's our subconscious mind. It's psychology. Our thoughts and feelings are driving how we behave every day. So if you're wanting to influence how people are behaving, how they're turning up to work every day, the way to get to understand them is to understand what they're thinking and feeling. And the only way to do that is to ask them. Ask the question. Get to know people through asking some great questions. Now I'm here as a firm believer of coaching. My organisation is called Coaching Culture. My life changed on the back of a coaching conversation. And I've always been somebody who's coached my teams, but also been coached myself. Coaching conversations do this. When I talk about transformational conversations, I often mean coaching conversations. Coaching can make such a huge difference, and that's why I said that horrendous conversation I shared at the beginning. I've gone on since to actually develop things to help people have better conversations. And back in 2019, Harvard Business Review was already saying then, the role of the manager, in short, is becoming that of a coach. So you're all sat in the room here today as leaders and managers of people, of functions, of departments, the whole organisation. But actually, how often do you think about the conversations you're having? How often do you think about them, prepare for them, think about the impact that you're having on that person's role, on their life, on everything, like that domino effect? It is so, so important. So, thinking about coaching, people often think, I haven't got time to coach, or coaching's for other people, coaching's reserved for other people. For me, I often liken coaching to cooking. Everybody should be able to have a coaching conversation, but not everybody should be able to be a professional accredited coach. And that's the same. Everybody should be able to know how to cook, but not everybody's a professional chef. It's the same. We should all have basic skills. And people often get scared of this coaching word, the C word I call it. It's not to be frightened of, because coaching is a mindset. It's a way of communicating. Coaching is about creativity, collaboration, change, conversations, all those fantastic words that are lifting up. It's about growth. Whenever I ask people, what do you think of when you think of coaching? The words that come out: development, potential, performance, trust. Well, there's no bad words there then. Development. So actually, the role of the leader and manager is becoming that of a coach. That is about asking questions more, listening, that's what we said earlier, communicating, building trust. But it's not all some people call coaching fluffy. That is where I'm throwing something, because fluffy, it is not. It builds high performance, and high performance isn't fluffy. It builds trust, relationships, and high performance. And often people say, oh no, too fluffy. I'm like, no. It builds a culture of trust. And a culture of trust builds high performance, but not the other way around. A culture of high performance doesn't always build trust. Trust does build high performance. So all of those, if you were all having these great transformational conversations, then you'd be building a culture that is a coaching culture. Now, I don't mean like the line manager I had many years ago, who was fresh off the back of a leadership development course, so don't do this to your teams after today. Fresh off the back of the course, and it was many years ago, I was in a sales role, and we did this meeting. I thought it had gone really well, and we were walking to the car, and he went, so, how do you think that went then? I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like it's gone that well, does it? Imposter syndrome going crazy. What would you do differently? Oh, it's getting worse. I've really got loads of things I should have done differently. By the time I got to the car 5 minutes later, he went, I thought it went quite well, Joe. I was like, why did you just say that? That is not how to have a coaching conversation. You could have framed it. You could have said, hey, I'm going to coach you now. Let's start talking. Because coaching questions are very much what and how questions. But not to do it like that, so you've got somebody dying slowly inside and the imposter going, help, what's going on? They actually wanted to give you some positive feedback, you just made it sort of a bit torturous. So don't do that. So when you roll up all these conversations, you create a fantastic culture. And the very definition of a coaching culture is a place where authentic leaders and managers help people to grow, thrive and perform through effective conversations, honest feedback, underpinned by trust. Now, all those words are important. There's not one word on there that is not an important. We talked honest earlier. Honesty. Feedback, absolutely key. So get building a culture of feedback. Feedback can be really tough at times. But actually, the more trust we build in our relationships and our connections at work, the more we can give and receive feedback and performance will grow. So let me leave you with a story. So I started you off with a story about one of those conversations I'll take to my grave. It was not a great experience, but one that I'll remember forever. Let me share with you now one conversation that was absolutely life-changing, transformational, and it was a positive conversation. So coaching conversations of where we communicate, where we build trust, can happen anywhere. This was a walking and talking experience. It was over in Melbourne in Derbyshire. I was learning how to coach and being coached at the same time. And I took one topic to be coached on, because coaching is about challenge, support and development. And I was speaking to a fellow training coach, and I was saying to her, can I set up my own was fresh from leading an organisation, my confidence was battered, I was full of fears, I had really low confidence. And I was walking and talking, what about this, what about this? Crikey, I could have filled up the whole room with stinky fish anxieties at that time. And she stopped me in my tracks with the coach. And she turned into an uncoach-like coach for that moment and said to me, there is only one person who is stopping you going self-employed, building a business. There is only one person who is holding you back right now. I was like, who? You. She said, you. And in that moment, it was like a penny had been stuck in my throat. Ting, it dropped. In that moment, I recognised that conversations are so powerful and can impact people's lives, the course of their lives and career, forever. And that one made a huge difference to me. So I'd like to leave you with a quote, because I love a good quote, but I want you to think about it in terms of yourself, your role, and your responsibility as fantastic leaders and managers within Antico. And this quote is this: people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never, ever, ever forget how you made them feel. Thank you.